We're live. Hi, and welcome to Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and today I am here with winner of Go Go for the Gold Season 2, Go-Go dancer Johnny Cakez. How you doing today, sexy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. It's good. As I was telling him, I'm in Florida. Has the weather been better outside? Yes, there's literally a tornado warning ended 15 minutes before we were supposed to start, so I almost thought, I'm like, fuck, am I gonna have power to do the interview? Like,
Not the tornado warning.
and also I'm like, it's January. Like everyone's talking about how cold it is. It was cold for like 4 days.
That's the same here, actually. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of cold right now. We've been getting a lot of rain, but I'm like, I will take this over Michigan any freaking day of the week.
Well, I mean, I was telling you I'm planning on moving to Michigan, so like maybe like
Do you like the snow?
I've as I said, I've been in snow. I've just never lived in it.
Girl, I've taught the winters there they are something. So just
Well,
make sure you have some snow boots. You have a little emergency kit in your car.
well, I mean, my ideal would be to get an at home job, or for this to
Mm,
finally take off by the time I decide to move, so that way I don't got to work for anybody. Well,
that's
I- well, I don't have to work for anybody in a way of like go to a 9 to 5, watch what I say, because that's why I have a drag persona. That's why some people are like, "Are you ever afraid of what you say?" No.
no. Why would you like? No, that would be the dream, actually. Like, I would right now, like, I do work a 9 to 5 as well, in addition to
Yeah,
like dancing, because
right.
LA is a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be before
Of
I moved
course.
here. So still had to keep my day job.
Yeah. I mean, that's why people think when I was telling you to move to Detroit, everyone's like, it's so unsafe there. But I'm like, yeah, but have you noticed that Detroit is cheap? Like,
It,
super cheap.
it's cheap, but it also, I do think it gets kind of a bad rap because it's actually not as bad. I mean, obviously, previously, like, it definitely had some bad years, but they put a lot of money and work into like making it a safe, like, up and coming, like, new town. It's actually quite nice, to be fair.
Yeah. And also, it's like, everyone's like, you're going to live in the hood. I'm like, listen, I'm a thick bitch with a fat ass that like black guys are into. Like, that ain't that. I ain't going, I'm going to be fine. Like,
Like, I'm gonna do just fine. I'm gonna be pulling my trade.
it's like, I lived in the hood in Orlando for 4 years. I'm like, did I die? No. Everyone's like, then I know what I'm doing. Like,
Did I die? No. Did I hook up?
yeah.
Yes. that's
Oh,
that's kind of like where I'm from, though, too. Like, my little country town in Michigan. Like, I did very well for myself sexually. I was just fine. I was safe, but but satisfied.
exactly. So, what was it like for you growing up as a kid in Michigan?
Uh, so I come from a huge family. I'm one of 13, 13
Wow.
siblings. So it was a little chaotic. We didn't grow up with a ton of money. So when we moved to Michigan, we all shared this little 1 bedroom cabin. Like, us kids would just roll out a blanket, sleep on the floor. Like, my parents would get like the bedroom. Um, but honestly, like, when I look back now, I kind of wouldn't change it because, like, it was so fun. Like, it was so fun, just like basically having to sleep over with your siblings every freaking day. Um, on the other side, it was a very close-minded type of town. So
Mm-hmm.
like, LGBT, like, really isn't super accepted there. And like what comes with that lifestyle. Like, I had to travel to like completely different cities, hours away, just to find a gay bar to go dance at. Like, it, so to be gay, it was pretty difficult. I didn't come out until I was 21, and even then, like, I didn't really come out. It was like I left my Facebook back when Facebook was like really big. I left my Facebook up when I came back home from college type of thing. So I really didn't have a coming out. It was more of like a oopsie whoopsie type of moment. But yeah, very just what you would probably think of when you think of like Midwestern country town.
Yeah. Okay, so that actually was my next question. So I guess I'll just tell you my story. So I would say in some ways I was fortunate because I only had to come out to one parent because I came out 4 months after my mom died. So I was only having to come out to my dad, and then I have an older sister. That was the good part. The bad part was, so I came out to a youth minister at the church, which was clearly a mistake.
Oh, wow.
Because I told him about this performance idea I had with like a knife and how I'd practice stabbing myself because I'm dramatic, clearly.
Yeah, as we are.
And he left the room. He came back in about 10 minutes later. He said, okay, you have one of two options. Either you're coming with me or I'm calling the cops. Now, in hindsight, I would have let him call the cops. Yeah. I went with him, I went with him to get a psych eval.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I passed. Well, they had told me I had passed it. I feel like he had heard that I had passed it, and he went around basically telling all of them that I was lying. And as a result, I got locked in a mental institution for 64 hours.
Damn. Yikes. Yeah, so we grew up pretty religious as well. So like my parents like now are a lot better than they were when like we first came out. So I have a gay older brother who came out first, and then like I saw how my parents reacted with that, and I'm like, I am not coming out until I am like moved and out and all that type of jazz. And then I forgot to log on to my fucking Facebook, and here we are. And then my younger sister is also gay as well. But yeah, kind of not, I wouldn't say similar, not, but very much like those religious views and, oh, you're going to hell. And, like it must be a choice because God would never make anything that is like damned to hell and, all that bullshit. But now they've came along. They've came a long way. They still have their religious views, but like we can talk about it and it not be a vicious conversation. Let's put it that way.
Well, okay. With that, did you ever go to conversion therapy?
Never conversion therapy. Never that. But I was like, I had to go to church. I had to go to church. Like that was like non-negotiable. And then once I got like, I think my parents kind of knew. Like, I feel like you can't not know this about your kid. So I think that's kind of why they pushed like religion so hard. I still am religious to an extent, but like I don't believe that because I'm gay, like I'm going to hell. Do I think there's a God? Yes, but I think like he loves all his children. But never conversion therapy. Which, sorry you had to go through that, by the way.
It was okay. So mine wasn't okay. So I have to say this: mine wasn't as bad as some people's. Like I didn't get electroshocked or anything, thank God. But I did have a therapist. She was not a therapist. She was a counselor that worked for the church. She trapped me in a room. I think it was on like session like 3 or 4. She got me to confess all this stuff, and then she said, okay, let's just pray to see if this will go away.
Oh.
And magically, naivete, thought it worked for about 6 hours, and I saw a guy I was turned on to, saw his ass and got hard, and I'm like, nope. It's like you tried, baby.
You tried.
You tried.
It took about 6 hours, and then I met a guy, and then I hooked up with him in the church.
God, I wish. I wish I was older, and like the first time I had sex, and like I always say this because I'm honest, the first time I had sex I was actually raped. So like
yeah, I had sex later, like my first time having sex was later in life as well. I think I was 21 actually before
I was
I
22, yeah.
yeah, so like a little later than most people. My first time was consensual, but I've been through sexual assault as well.
Yeah.
So I get what that's like, and it's not. Unfortunately, it is something that's quite common in our
Hmm.
community, whether it's from someone who is straight or someone from our own community. Like, it is sad that it's as common as it is.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the thing is, I think, especially, well, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, you're a go-go dancer. People think that they can treat go-go dancers any fucking way that they want, and
Uh-huh.
it's like, no.
Which that's something that we actually talked about in the show, and I wish they would have showed it. Obviously, like they only have so much time to put so much stuff in there, but that is
Yeah,
something that like they asked us about in the show quite a bit because like people do like you're dancing like you're in like a G-string or whatever it is, and people just think, oh, like you're this piece of me, like I can just touch you and fondle you if I give you $1. Like,
yeah,
no, absolutely not. When I first started, like because I'm just from where I'm from, like I just thought that was a part of the gig. So
yeah.
I just let people do it. I was like, oh, like I guess this is a part of it. Like they're paying me, like they get to like put their hands in places and like all this, and I just let it happen until finally like one of like my peers was like, you can tell them like no, right? And I was like, no, like I know it's maybe something that like people shouldn't have to tell you, but I feel like people should because some people don't know that that's not a part of the gig.
Craziest story I heard from somebody was they said that they literally had somebody eat their ass on stage. I'm like, how the fuck did you like let that happen? Like,
I
I understand, like,
I've had that happen, not like full on, but like I've had people like put their face in my ass, like when like I'm in the thong and like I get like on all fours and I'm just like dancing like a hoe, and like people
yeah,
will put $1 in and like yeah, I've had people like shove their face in my ass, try to like finger me, like all sorts of stuff. Some people just have no boundaries, and it's hard because you don't want to make it awkward and be like, dude, like back the fuck off. So like you have to learn ways to be polite about it, but also get the point across. But it's crazy what people try to do.
yeah, it's like this was the thing. Like, see, I will always say in truth. So, okay, actually, no, I'm gonna let you go first. So, what was it like the first time you performed?
I I think like I naturally like love performing. Like I studied dance in college. Like I grew up teaching myself how to dance by like watching So You Think You Can Dance and like learning that choreography because we couldn't afford like dance classes. So like I grew up like loving performing. So like I love it. Like that is my favorite thing about go-going is that like I get to entertain and like perform. It's not about the money. It's not about like being sexualized or anything like that. Like it's about
Yeah,
performing. Like I like putting on a show. Um,
right.
I mean, definitely my first time, like I definitely was probably nervous because how could you not be? But like once you
Yeah,
get in like after like your first set and like you kind of like get the feel for it, those nerves kind of go away. And you're like, I'm just gonna vibe up here.
right. And I will say, actually, crazily enough, I have one of the rare experiences as a drag queen because I actually started performing in a straight bar.
Oh,
Because the thing is, as a musician, I used to do open mic nights in Orlando. So, like, I would just be, as I said, there'd be all these bros there with their guitar, and like, I'd hand the DJ my iPod and have these like electronic beats thumping through this like tiny bar. And it's like, as his owners were cool with me, except for one night. So, one night, I had ended one of my sets by screaming motherfucker into the microphone at the end of my set, and then I got told a week later not to do that.
you don't know until they tell you. But hey, what's
But
wrong with saying
I'm
fucker?
yeah, I'm at a bar. Like, literally, I was at a bar. I'm like, this bar is 21 plus. They said there's old people in the audience this week. I'm like, so kick them
Who
the
gives
fuck
a
out. Kick them the fuck out. Like, I've been here longer than you've known these people. Like, at that point, I had been performing there for like almost a year. Like,
and it's
every
not like
week.
it's not like those people haven't heard motherfucker before. Like,
Yeah. And
like
it wasn't in my set anyway. Like,
it was like you're signing off, like, motherfucker.
well, actually, my thing was when I did see the old people, how I usually like. So I do. Let's see, what was it? I do 3 songs. I think right after the it was like either the first or the second song. I'd like get into the microphone and be like, "How the fuck you doing tonight, Orlando?" Like I'd.
Like you're hosting, like that's
Yeah.
what you do.
That's why, like, I haven't ever been asked to host, but can I host? Absolutely.
I feel like you do this, and like this
Yeah.
is probably almost harder than hosting at a bar, like because it's just you and one person.
Right. I have had 2 people once, but it's like somebody's like, because I can do that, and somebody's like, "Why don't you do it more often?" I'm like, "Do you know how hard it is to coordinate 2 people's schedules in addition to mine?" Like,
And let alone just like two yapping gays, like trying to like find like where you interject. I just feel like that would be very chaotic. Maybe not. It seems to
yeah.
me, if there were 2 of me on here, just I know the way that I talk, I feel like it would be so hard to try to navigate that conversation.
Yeah. And somebody's like, my drag sister was like, "Why don't you just have 2 people on who hate each other and just make it like," I'm like, "I'm not turning my podcast into Jerry Springer."
Right,
Like,
right. A Real Housewives moment.
yeah. Like, no.
That's awesome.
I do have some people out in LA who actually I have to say this. They probably I will say this. They probably know what I've said because this is the thing. Like, you say things into the universe and like you feel like nobody knows like how I'm doing things, and then all of a sudden I got on Peter Apollo's live one time and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen you out there doing your podcast." And I'm like, "Good thing I haven't said anything bad about you."
Like, you're like, I'm good, I'm safe.
Yeah. No, he and I are good. He's gonna be on here in a couple weeks.
I like Peter. Actually, the whole cast was.
Yeah.
I don't. Granted, this was like my first show I've been on, but like compared to like just things I've like, I'm a big reality TV buff, so I feel like the cast got along. We had our moments, but it was a very fun cast to work with. To be fair.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't had anyone complain about the cast. So like I've had you, I've had Kirby, and I've had Ace on so far. Nobody's complained about
Oh,
the cast
Kirby
so
and
far.
Ace are 2 of my faves.
Yeah.
They're good guys. They're really good
Yeah.
guys. We had the little incident where the one like really that was the only one that was like a little like the one that like quit and left.
Yeah.
But like he's still like in person he's great. But like that moment in and of itself was like
Well, I
not
mean, but okay, so I didn't even think to ask about that. So like what were you all what were you thinking while that was happening?
it was because you could kind of tell he was like very pressed. Like he was just like you could hear him like mumbling and shaking his head and like huffing and puffing. And I'm like, oh shit, like something is about to like go down. And like when he like went off at the judges, like a lot of us were like kind of almost like, was this like a stunt type of thing? Like, oh, like was this like planned or like part of production
Yeah.
or whatever it was? No, that was all him. And like he stormed off and like he continued to kind of like yell at Johnny McGovern like over on the side, like after like the cameras and stuff had went away. And it was just like me and Judas sitting on the stage, like by ourselves, just like watching it. Like, and this went on for probably like 45 minutes to an hour. Like it was a very long scene. And like my favorite part was like he's like going off on Johnny, and there's just like this little production girl like who sneaks in from the back and like is holding her little microphone over like a fly on the wall. And it was just the funniest thing I've ever seen because she was wearing all black and the wall was
Yeah.
black. So you just see like her little head. Just like
As she's like trying to go in. Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, it was great TV. Like if they could have shown more, like it really was spectacular television.
Well, this is the thing. At least from what you said, it sounds like they had more time to film season 2 than they did season 1. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. It definitely looked like there was no Tino shade, a little more effort put into season 2 than season 1. But granted, I feel like every season 1 of any show is kind of like
yeah.
the testing season.
And it's like, it's sad because, like, that person blew up thinking, oh, they're going to get this chance. Okay, I'm not spilling anything that hasn't been said on here before, but at least for now, there's not going to be a season 3. I know that.
Mhm.
I know why there's not going to be a season 3, but I'm keeping a secret.
I'm just gonna be the forever reigning Go champion superstar. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna hope there's a season 3. Shit.
I do too.
Well,
Like, I really think it is such a good show, and I don't really think there's any other show like it, at least that I've come across. And it was fucking
yeah.
entertaining. Even if I wasn't on it, I would have watched it because it was so entertaining.
Here's the thing. Greg McKeon said something when I interviewed him about like getting a different host. I'm thinking like I might have you back on and like put my hat in the ring. Like,
Greg McKeon is a character. That guy. He's just a character. He's so fun to just watch interact because just like his mannerism stuff is just so entertaining. I could watch him talk. I could just watch him talk all day.
And he like told me a few hookup stories. One of my favorite ones that he told me. So he was on this cruise ship one time and he was sitting at like it was like a straight cruise ship and like he was sitting at dinner with this like mom and her kid and like his husband texted him. He's like that kid's gay and he literally texts back. He's like he's with his mom and then like all of a sudden the mom turned to Greg and his husband started talking and then they're like, so where are you guys from? And then like they started having a conversation and then the mom kept him or had the son go with him and his husband.
Well. Word.
And they fucked him in the club.
Okay, honestly, I'm here for it. I am here for it.
And I was like,
and what a good mom,
like,
just being like, here you go.
Well, she was upset like after the son came back because like clearly his clothes were like tattered and well not tattered but like they were like loose and everything and he had like cum in his hair and then they like went to go eat.
Just like looking completely disheveled, just like hair everywhere. One sleeve is ripped off. Like, that's awesome. I mean, I've had a couple, not so much that, but I've had a couple fun situations similar to be.
Never, they're like, okay, so craziest thing I'm trying to think. Okay, so this is actually, you know what? I'll skip to this question, then we'll go back to the other question. So, have you ever hooked up with somebody who's tipped you?
Yep, I sure have. Many times. Yes. Like if they're tipping me, like that's just like icing on the cake. If they're also like, but if they're also attractive, like they're coming back home. So yes, that many a times.
So I didn't do it that often. I have 2 stories about the place the gay club I used to perform at in Orlando. Unfortunately, it's not open anymore. It got closed because of the pandemic. But it used to be like, it was this hotel, it was this gay resort. And they had like a beach out back. And then I had this guy who had a cross-dresser fetish. And like, he's like 6 or 7 times, he's like, you want your dick sucked? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just went back with him to the beach and like
I've brought in a couple, like I've done it at the club a couple of times, like taking them back to like the little go-go dressing room that like we usually have, like if no one's back there. That's quite easy to do if you wait for the right moment. You know, a good little blowjob never hurt anybody.
Yeah. And then only one time I got fucked in the parking lot. So like the parking lot was like they had like the regular parking lot, and then they had like this giant field like out back that like was where I went to go get fucked. And like another guy with a crossdresser fetish, he like fucked me until he got nervous. I think like somebody pulled up next to him.
You're
I'm
fine.
like, it's like we're fine. Literally, this was like dark. Like it was like I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, bitch.
You're good. I actually like, to be honest, I kind of like the public stuff where there's like some risk involved. To me, that's hot. Like, obviously, like sex is like fun, but like when there's like that little extra risk involved, like, oh, like we could get caught or someone could see us. Like I'm into that.
Johnny Cakez, the new like ambassador for Stiffies. Like,
Honestly, Stiffies is kind of my jam here, to be honest. It's just so to the point. Like if I'm just looking for like a quick fix, like it's just so to the point. There's no, hey, how you doing? How's your day? It's like, this is what I got. Do you want it? Yes or no? Here's my address.
well, this was the thing. I'm not really in my hookup era. We'll go into this in a little bit later, but it's like I had a guy like message me. So like we had made plans on Tuesday. Like he's like, when are you free? I'm like, I'm free on the weekend. And it's like, then he hit me up like a few hours ago, and it's like, and he's like, can you come over? I'm like, listen, today I'm like busy because I'm not gonna sit there and like reschedule you and be like, I'm sorry, I had to go to Train's house. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Hey, I would have understood though, to be honest. I would have sympathized.
After how long it's taken me to get you here, no way. Like
that's true. That's true.
I'm not gonna guilt you about that. There's somebody I've been waiting for. Okay, so they had an interview scheduled in April. Still trying to get them on.
My work schedule here has just been so like I work HR, but like for retail, and like it's just like I have to be available like almost any time of the day, unless I tell them like, hey, like unless it's like my days off, like they could call me like any, because I'm also salaried, so like I'm technically working all the time, so it is very hard for me to like commit to things so far in advance.
Yeah,
because I don't know what the fuck's. So I just got into the habit of telling them, hey, like if I'm not in the office, I am not replying back to you. I'm not picking up no phone calls. I'm respecting my time, and I need you to respect my time, or I will block your number until I'm back in the office.
And that's the thing. It's like, granted, I used to have an overbearing boss. I don't work there anymore. Thank God. I used to be a server, and like, thank God, this is my first like non-serving job. I work at a call center, so like, when I don't show up, like that day I texted you Thursday, I was supposed to be at work. I had to like drop off my car because I was having problems. I'm like, I literally called out on the call out line, didn't hear from anybody the whole day. So I basically just like stayed at home and did nothing.
Car problems fucking suck though. I've had so many car issues since I moved here. I've been in 2 accidents, like a flat tire, and like I've been here almost barely a year, and I've already totaled a car and got the other one in a crash.
It's because this is the thing. It's because my car is like old. It's not because like there's a ton of miles on my car. So it's like it's a 2010, but like there's under 70,000 miles on my car. So like,
oh wow, that's very good. That is very good.
Yeah, I got one of those like cars. Even my last car. So my last car I did total. So like, well, I didn't total it. It got totaled because of its age. But it was a 2012 and it had like under 80,000 miles on it, and they're like, it was so bad off, they like, just because the age is just like total. Like, I'm like, yeah.
That's. Do you not drive a lot, or
I don't?
Are they very close proximity?
I drive a lot now because the thing is, now I have to commute to my job. I have to commute into the like next big city. again, as I told you, I was saying this was small town. A ton of people are moving here, and I'm like, why? There's nothing to fucking do. Like,
Like,
there's. I'm like, I see people, they're like building a house and all this shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, maybe they're trying to make it more interesting. Maybe.
they're put in a gay bar. Like, put in.
Yeah. Bring
Put
the
in a gay.
to the city, and we will make it happen.
Yeah, what was it? I saw somebody who moved from the Bronx to here. Somebody I've interviewed on here, and I'm like, you moved here, why? You moved from the Bronx, you should have moved to Miami. Like, is it literally that much more expensive in Miami? Not really. Like,
I love Miami. Like, South Beach is probably one of my favorite places I've ever visited.
I like Fort Lauderdale better, but like, it's just because like Miami. Okay, so I will say this: I like to go out to places in drag, and like how I usually put stuff, because like clearly I'm not a purse queen, so like how I carry my stuff around is like I have this like tiny little backpack that I just put my stuff in. It's like it's not a huge backpack. But like almost every club in Miami is like they're like no backpacks allowed. I'm like, but you're letting women bring purses. Like, what am
What's
I gonna be able to bring? Yeah.
Because I mean, some women's purses are bigger than a backpack.
Well, they say small purses. I'm like, but again, this is a small backpack. I think. Actually, here's the thing. I think it's like it was like made for like little kids. Like it's literally a small like backpack. I spent like $9 on at Walmart. Like it's it's literally just enough for me to like carry my phone, my wallet, my keys, and then like wig spray, my hairbrush, and then at the end of the night I can put this wig in it. But like other than that, there's no room for anything else.
Like probably like similar to a fanny pack, maybe a little bigger, but like
yeah,
what's the difference?
that's why. Whereas like in Wilton Manors, that's not a rule. Like pretty much everywhere, and I'm like, again, it's like, first of all, yeah. Since when has a drag queen gone to shoot up the club? Like honestly, like seriously.
That's fair. I mean, that is fair.
I mean, like, I'm not short, but like I know I'm intimidating, but it's like seriously, have a conversation with me.
I think people are so quick to judge or like just generalize or stereotype things that like they're unfamiliar with, that they just want to like put in like this like, oh, I'm like scared of them type of box, or they're scary or whatever it is, rather than actually like taking the time to get to know the individual.
Yeah, it's like literally I'm only a bitch if like you've given me a reason to be.
That part.
Or you might think that I'm a bitch because I say my opinion. Listen, I am all for supporting queer entertainers, but if I think you suck, I'm gonna tell you that I fucking think you suck. Like,
and like honestly, I appreciate that, to be like, and this is something like I'm kind of not struggling with in LA, but like there's not with entertainers specifically, but like I did not have to deal with this type of bullshit in Michigan. Like people were just open and honest. They said what they thought. There was no like ulterior motives or like like trying to navigate this gay community in LA is probably one of the hardest things I think I've had to do. Like it's impossible.
That's why like I thought about moving to LA at one point. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. This is the thing. I've already, as I said, I've already said things about two, let's call them musicians. One of them's a rapper that can't rap. It's like seriously, you put out a song and you have 3 other people who aren't rappers on the song, and they're doing better than you, the person who paid for the studio time. Like,
some people are just not self-aware.
I'm gonna shut up. I'm not gonna say who it is. But that's why I stay. That's why, like, I knew, like, I thought about if I were to do the West Coast, I would do like Seattle, but like
Mm. I've
Seattle's
been,
kind of
yeah,
expensive.
yeah, it is expensive, but it is like, because I have a friend who used to live there. He lives in Arizona now, but Seattle's very cute and has a pretty decent like queer scene as well.
Yeah. What was it? Oh, my sister who I'm not gonna say she came out as queer. I'm not sure exactly what the minutia is, but like she came out and like when you say that thing about those parents' nose, I'm thinking like if my dad knew, why didn't he stop her from walking down the aisle and marrying a man? Like that would have been my question.
Uh-huh. Like if you knew why, like help her out. Come on.
And what was it? I remember like one of the first things I said when I like saw a picture of like her boyfriend or her husband. When I first saw a picture, I said he was hot, and she's like, "It's just like, can't you come up with anything more?" I'm like, "What? I'm supposed to make a judgment on somebody that I don't fucking know?" Like, I said the first thing that I saw. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what I would have said too.
but it's like I should have known that my sister was gay. She married like she wanted to be ethnic, so she married a Puerto Rican guy, but she married like the whitest looking Puerto Rican guy ever. I'm like,
I think sometimes it's kind of. I mean, I know it's like not like people love who they love, but it's like for like my brother, for instance, like he's gay, like
yeah,
he is dating a man that's like a little more feminine, and like my sister is like a lipstick lesbian, but dating someone who is very masculine,
yeah.
and like it. I just get very like intrigued of like people's attraction to people and like the chemical reactions in your brain that like gear you towards one way or the other.
See, my thing is, I don't care either way. Like, well, okay, having the fat ass, I just, I just like this is my thing. I'm like, I don't size shame, but your dick does have to be a certain size.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. It can't be like, well, for me, like it can't be bigger than a certain amount, but it also can't be smaller than a certain amount. Like I need like a range, but it can't be like above or below.
Well, this is the thing. My thing is like, it's 6. It's like as long as you're above 6, I'm fine. Like, I haven't, I haven't encountered a dick. Surprisingly, me with being with black guys, I haven't encountered a dick that like I'm like, that's too big.
I
Not
have.
yet.
I have. And I'm also not naturally like a bottom. Like I obviously bottom. Like
Yeah.
so like I for someone who doesn't do it very often, if it's like a certain size and I know that it's gonna be painful, I'll be upfront. I'll be like, hey, like I'll like put it in my mouth, I'll do like all the other stuff, but that is not going in my butt. There is no way that that is fitting in there.
Well, okay. I didn't write this question down, but I'll ask. Do people assume because you have a fat ass that you are a bottom? Like,
Yeah. I mean, and I know I kind of get like bottom energy, whatever that is, but I like give that off when I'm dancing because like, I know that that is like what draws people in. So I do play it up.
right.
And then people just like, yeah, they assume that I'm a bottom or like I'll be like at like a party at like in the dark room and people like be like, can I fuck you? And I'm like, actually, not that. I'm a top. I'm a top. And they're like, with that ass? I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. False advertising. I apologize.
Well, see, my thing was I was until I was primarily okay. So I will say this. Here's how my journey goes. After I got raped, I didn't really bottom. I didn't bottom for like a year because
Mhm.
like my thing is I didn't want to go back. And then the first time I bottomed again was with my boyfriend, and I had the conversation of I'm like, listen, this is always the awkward conversation to have with somebody. I'm like, listen, I've been raped before. I may have some PTSD.
Mhm.
So like, I am gonna let you do this, but I'm just letting you know. And
Yeah.
granted, I was fine, and it's like, then I just started doing it, and then eventually we became open, and like, my thing was, and kids at home, don't listen to this, but I had sex with a crackhead.
Really?
and like he was the first person to like eat my ass, and like all of a sudden I'm like, I was weird for like a second, but then I'm like, oh.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, okay, you're okay. I'm like, you wanted to be the top, you're doing this from now on. Like,
Mhm. I mean, well, when I first like, I mean, even before like I was out and I was just like, doing things to myself, like I was actually like, topping did not interest me at all. Like, I very much was like bottom, 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 like for years. And then I think I just got, which this is so like typical top, I think. Like I just got like it became too much work. And I'm like, oh, like I'm just gonna like try like just go through like this topping spree. And like it just became like my regular as opposed to just like a little moment in time. So now I'm like, like I'm just gonna top because I'm too lazy to bottom.
see, my thing is how do I put this? It's complicated situation. Basically, he was over here, and like, as I said, I hadn't really like tops for years, and all of a sudden he just started like, we were hanging out at the house, and like all of a sudden he just started like sucking my dick. And then like, I'm like, okay. And then like, the next thing I knew, he lubed it up, and I'm like,
Okay.
and then he just like started riding it, and then like all of a sudden, because I've never come from topping before, and then like
Really?
all not until this time, so it's like
Uh,
I sat there, and then like all of a sudden he's like, I just thought I'd like pre-cum a little bit. He's like, you just came. I'm like, I did. I and
I
then and then and then he kept going, and I'm like, I don't think you're gonna get more than one load. He got 2 more after that. I'm like,
work. Work. I've actually only came once from bottoming, which I think is another reason why I don't do it, is because like I just don't get off from it. I've only gotten
right.
once, and it was like literally my second time bottoming ever. After that, I don't think I've ever came once from it. Not once. I can't even stay hard while bottoming.
I usually can't either. Although, actually, no, I'll say that it depends on what position I'm getting fucked in. Like,
Oh, that's fair.
it's like, well, actually, I will say this. Luckily, I don't talk to my dad's neighbors, so like, there was one time. Usually, I just get like fucked doggy style, and then like all of a sudden, so he spent the night, and like when he spent the night, I woke up Sunday morning, and then I'm like, let me ride it, baby, and like, so I did, and then like, I was just, I was yelling like so. Like I'm a singer, bitch. Like I have no problem projecting anywhere, and they're like,
Sorry, I take it you're loud then in the bedroom? Is that
absolutely,
yeah?
yeah.
Why am I picturing like have you ever seen Scary Movie 2?
I have a little bit.
Oh, there's this scene where like it's like this funny sex scene, obviously, but she's just like totally like going wild, like she's like riding a bull and just like yelling and screaming, and that's the image I have in my head.
Well, but and I will say this: I am a singer, and again, like
You were hitting those high notes. She
and
said,
it's like my thing is also nobody should be shocked that I'm loud. I'm 6'3". Like I'm literally like.
"Are you really?"
Yeah.
Damn, you are a
Yeah.
tall glass of
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Without heels?
Yeah. In heels, I'm anywhere, depending on the shoes, I'm 6'5" to, let's see, what's the tallest? I have a pair of Frankenstein boots that make me 6'9", 6'10". I don't wear them
Holy
that often.
fuck.
Yeah.
What's a Frankenstein boot, out of curiosity?
So, okay, so they're like the platforms that are like yay tall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, 6'9". Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The pair that I have now are 2 inches shorter. So like I had a pair that like I had when I was in Orlando. My dad, the accepting dad that I have, bought me them for Christmas. And then like there's one time I was walking, this was during Pride. And like I say, back then I wore clothes. Now I dress half naked in drag. I fucking own it. But like I was like walking, and then all of a sudden there was like a pebble that I missed, and I tripped and I fell forward. Luckily, I
That's a
landed on my
long
hands.
fall.
Yeah, I landed on my hands, and somebody's like, "That's why you only wear those shoes once a year." I'm like, "I'm not a klutz. I tripped on a pebble."
So being like as tall as you are, do you prefer like men to be like around the same height and whatnot?
I've been with both. Like,
Yeah.
I've been with my special friend, we'll call him. My special friend is 6'2", but like I've been with guys as short as 5'5".
Really?
I've
And
I've been top place. No, I've
where
been
were
top
they
with somebody 5'5".
what were they in this situation? Were
They
they
were the top.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Because I don't know if I've ever been with someone that's like not similar height as that's a lie. I've been with two people that were like quite shorter than me because I'm 6'1" ish if you want to round up. But usually I do stick to like people around the same height as me.
But the thing is, like, you got to figure population wise, like.
That's true. That is true.
And like, my thing is like, I'm already like narrowed in a category where it's like, the thing is, some people say like, my joke is I hook up with white guys once, twice a year. I call it community service. So like,
That's awesome.
I've been with primarily like, well, the thing was living in the hood. It's like when I started having sex, I was surrounded by black people. So it's like,
Yeah.
I had one ignorant white guy literally tell me, he's like, I can't come to your neighborhood. I'm afraid the hubcaps will get stolen off my car. I'm like, this was at 2 p.m. I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like,
First off, like, so many things wrong with that statement. Some people are just so ignorant. Yeah, ignorant, I guess, would be the great way to put it.
It's like, I'm like, okay. And it's like, my thing was, I used to have my own apartment, which was great. Like, the thing was, like, there were like so many guys who rode their everyone's like, do you have a thing for guys in the hood? I'm like, no, but like I'm used to people like leaving their bicycle inside my apartment. Like,
I don't see anything wrong with that, honestly. Like,
yeah.
Some people don't drive. How else are they going to get around?
Well, I mean, in the city, it makes sense. Like, that was the thing, because like Orlando has like much probably like LA. Orlando has shitty public transit. Like,
ours is fucking terrible. Terrible.
Like, there's a bus. Like, there's literally a bus, and like there's a train that runs like from the city, like outside of the city to like other like towns. But like, yeah, there's no like, there's a bus.
Yep, we have like a bunch of buses, and I think we have one subway. I think I actually didn't know we had a subway until a couple weeks ago. That's how much people use it. But we have a pretty decent bus system. Just it's not always the safest.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing when people talk about like living in a city. I'm like, all cities are unsafe. That's why going back to Detroit, I'm like, all cities are unsafe. Like, it's now 2024. It's like you can literally get murdered in Walmart anywhere. Like
yeah, that is true. Like, it doesn't really matter where you are anymore. Like, you gotta keep your eyes peeled.
And
like, you could go to fucking suburbia and like get killed. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there are bad people everywhere.
unless I feel like unless you move to like Alaska, and I'm like, who the fuck wants to live there? Like,
that's true. Honestly, I've heard Alaska's actually quite nice.
Well, okay. Here's the thing about Alaska. It's not that it's not beautiful. In Alaska, you have trouble getting internet service, TV service, phone service, like all of it, because like you're in the middle of nowhere, so it's like you have to pay like crazy exorbitant amounts of money. I'm like, because I work near somebody who used to live in Alaska, and I'm like, not that I ever wanted to move there, but thank you for giving me enough reasons to never want to move to Alaska.
And don't they only get like a couple hours of sunlight or something?
It depends on what time of year it is. There's sometimes it's dark the whole year, or the like half the year. It's dark half the year.
No, that does not interest me at all. Nope.
No, it's like that's why I'm like maybe if it was like the last choice where it's like Alaska or die, I might live in Alaska then. But like
if it was like Alaska or go back to Michigan, I might take Alaska.
You think you could work in Alaska? Like,
oh no, I guess I didn't really think about that either.
Yeah,
that's fair. I would be curious to see what the gay scene looks like in Alaska if there is one.
They probably all meet at like an Eskimo bar with like one of those like bears. I'm like,
they just form like a bunch of little tents out in the woods and turn it into a circuit party.
Yeah, like that is my thing. Like, I have been plenty of like small town is like for me when gay people are like, I want to move to small town. I'm like, okay, so clearly you're boring. Like
that. I will say there are some things I miss about living back home. Most of it is like the way people are, if that makes sense. Like, people were a lot more welcoming and nicer. If they didn't know you, they would just welcome you in and be like, oh, like if I went to a bar in Michigan and I didn't know a single person, I could leave the bar with a whole group of friends. Here, if you go out to a bar, like, you have to know someone. Otherwise, you're not really going to meet anybody.
That's LA, baby. Like,
it is the one thing I dislike the most about living here is how unwelcoming. I mean, granted, there are some that are like welcoming and genuine and like cool people, but there's also like a larger amount of people that I've met that, like, if you don't know someone in their friend group or you're not like rich or this or that, like, they're not even going to give you the time of day. And it's it's just annoying. Like, why can't people just be nice?
Right. Here's my theory, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like at least the two people I know in LA, this is an example. I feel like if you started out on like the East Coast or like started out like in the middle of the country, you're a little bit like you have more of those roots to you versus if you're like from the West Coast originally.
Yeah, I think that's true. I feel like the people or that I've met that have given me like this standoffish vibe are people that were like born and raised in California or like they grew up here and like that's kind of like how they are, I guess. But like, and the people that I've bonded with are people like who have moved here from Ohio or from like DC or Chicago, like where they already had a different style of like upbringing than what seems to be what people get here.
Because I met somebody, like, they've been on here twice. Or I should say he's been on here twice. It's like he was originally from Seattle, and like all of a sudden I thought we were like becoming friends, and then like one day just like ghosted me. Like,
Yeah, that is, I'm actually, because I was just talking about this with one of my friends, how like, and I don't know if like this was the case with you, but like,
yeah,
you could be like vibing with someone as like a friend, like you feel like you're forming a friendship and like blah 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 blah, and then out of the blue, no reason at all, like it just like dissipates for no reason at all. It's
that's
strange.
yeah. I'm like, this is the thing. I've sat here, I've like promoted your stuff. I'm like, granted, have I said some stuff about you as an actor? Not me judging like them as an actor, but I'm like, my thing was like they said they were an actor, and I'm like, but you never on set. Like, I never see you like holding up a script. Like, so you an actor who doesn't work. Like,
Do you think, and maybe and you don't have to answer this question,
yeah.
do you think that, because I guess like in my situation, like they were kind of getting something out of being involved with me, like they were getting like promoted or they were getting like
Oh
opportunity,
yeah.
and then once they got it, it was kind of like, okay, like deuces.
And that's the thing. Like, I was literally going to promote their like most recent project. I'm like, and they didn't even come on here for the interview. I'm like, you have somebody who's theoretically an interviewer contacting you, and you're not going to message them back?
Uh-huh.
Like, that to me seems,
Especially as an actor, like you would think you would want every opportunity to like get your name out there.
and it's like I tag everybody and everything. I give you the links for everything, so it's like,
Yeah,
you could literally just put the shit out there. It's like,
it's free publicity.
yeah,
Like
that's
and
exactly what
like
I'm.
kudos to you for like I know obviously like you're doing it for your reasons, but also like
Yeah.
being so willing to like tag people and be like, hey, like go ahead and like promote this on like your thing. Like it's
Yeah.
very generous for you to do that.
Because my thing is like, in some ways, I don't know, maybe this is the East Coast, like, somewhat, I'm like part Italian, like maybe this is the part Italian in me. It's like, I treat this like, especially like if you've been here more than once, like, I treat you like family. Like, I will sit here and and fucking defend you. Like, when everyone's turning their back on you, it's like, I'm not, well, I have my limits. Like, if you go full like Kanye, I ain't helping you. Like,
Yeah.
on like it's like you start saying Hitler's awesome. I'm not gonna like no,
Yeah.
I ain't gonna help you then. But like, bar that, like,
I feel like it's probably a little bit of the Italian and the East, because I mean I'm not Italian, obviously. but I feel like Italians very much are like once you're a part of their family, like you're a part of their family, and they're gonna like ride or die with you until you cross some boundaries or give them a reason not to.
no, and it's like, my thing is, and this was the crazy part. I was talking about flying out to LA and going to like meet them in person. It's like, well, shit. Good thing I didn't make any plans, because like,
That would have
you know,
one been so shitty for someone to do. Like that would have
yeah.
just pissed me right off.
I mean, granted, was I coming immediately? No, because it's like, I'm like, I have a life. Like this
Yeah.
this shit theoretically keeps me busy. I mean, granted, you caught me on a week where like I try and book 2 guests a week. Sometimes it's hard, and like sometimes I literally just had somebody cancel on Monday, so I'm like, I try and do Monday, Thursday, but I'm like, good. So at least like this will ride me out. Like I can promote this till my Thursday guests.
Yeah. Yeah.
If yeah.
Well, thank you for making time, by the way, on
Yeah.
a day when you don't normally do it. I appreciate it.
That's good. The only thing is I'm sleeping, and like I usually that sounds bad. I sleep during the day. No, well, I gotta look young, baby. Like,
In sleep, honestly, I can tell, like, when I look in the mirror,
yeah,
I know when I have slept enough and when I have not. Like,
yeah.
you can just tell.
You start getting like the under eye circles, and you get
Uh-huh.
the
And like your
you get
skin just looks tired, if that makes sense. Like it's
yeah.
not. It is not a good look on me.
It's not a good look on anybody. It's like, well, this is the thing. It's like in theory for some people, not for me, but for some people, it's like their solution is to like see it and then like, oh yeah, let me just and like I'm all good now. Like,
Nope. It may help you feel alert, but you do not look alert. Ugh.
yeah. So okay, where am I?
Yeah, we went on a little tangent there for a little bit.
That's okay, baby. That means we're getting along. Like that's that's a good thing. Listen, I interviewed Rico before, and Rico and I did not get along this well. Like
he's
yeah,
he's an acquired taste, I've come to learn, because I've meet him like quite a bit, like out at the bars, and like at first,
yeah.
like you can get kind of like a coldness, I guess is the best way to put it. But then like as I've like come to meet him like more and more outside of like just like that initial meeting, he does like grow on you a little bit, but it does take a little bit of time.
Well, my thing will. Well, okay. I'm going to say this. He also showed up an hour late, so it's like I was a little bit
Uh,
over it.
That
Like
is that is honestly that is fair. I will give you that one. That is definitely, yeah. I'd be a little perturbed as well.
it's like, well, my thing was especially so I interviewed him in March of last year, and I only started interviewing people on this podcast. So I'd done this podcast a year before, like by myself, and then in January last year, I'd started interviewing people for the first time. So like in March, I was only in this 2 months, and I'm like, okay, is this how people are out in LA? Like, maybe?
Some people.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm very professional. Like, I was a choir kid, like, and I was the person who's like taught if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, don't bother showing up at all. Like, that's
Yeah.
something that was drilled in my head at the age of 15. So, like,
Mine's just a matter of like if it were me, like would I want someone to do that to me? No, so I'm not gonna do
yeah,
that to them. Like it's just a matter of
right.
mutual respect. Like you got shit to do. You have a life.
Yeah.
You don't have hours to just be sitting waiting for someone to get on.
Yeah. Especially like it's hot. Well, that's it's hot in drag, but it's like hot in general. It's like it's Florida. That's the other thing in Detroit. I'm like, come on. Oh, like, especially like as I said, living at home. My dad likes to keep it at 78 year round. Like, and I'm like,
That is, uh, if my apartment is above 70 degrees, I am so uncomfortable. I hate warm. I hate it.
yeah,
But like yeah, like
yeah,
it's not like you're sitting around in this, like you have a
yeah,
wig on, you have like your face is beat, like
yeah.
that's probably not the most comfortable thing to be waiting around in hours on end.
No. So okay, where did I go? Oh, okay. So how have you reacted? Well, you kind of answered this a little bit, but how have you reacted when people have inappropriately touched you?
Um, at first, like I said, like I kind of just let him do it because I didn't
Yeah,
know any better. As I've like go-goed more and more and became um more accustomed to like the do's and don'ts of go-going, like there are like little ways that you can like get the hint, like give them the hint, like no, that's not okay, without making the moment awkward. Like you just like shift your body a little bit so like they don't have like access to your ass or your dick or whatever it is, or you stand up and start dancing, or you interact with another like person who's coming to tip you. Like there are ways to do it without making it super awkward, where at first I would just tell people like don't do that, and then
Yeah.
it completely ruined the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say that's definitely probably like, what was it? I had somebody on here one time. They talked about like go-going in a jockstrap. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, that's the easiest way to like get somebody to like try and do stuff to you. Like,
So many people go in jock straps here, like full
what?
on like full asshole out, like at the bars. And it like in Michigan, like we couldn't do that. We couldn't have like exposed hole.
Yeah.
Like I'd be wearing like a thong or something. People
Yeah.
just wear jock straps here, and it's like no big deal.
See, my thing is like, especially since I know how go-go dancers react, I would want to be as covered up as possible. Like,
Yeah, I mean, at least like, I mean, obviously I can't be super covered, but
well, no, but like in a thong, you at least feel like safe. Like,
yes, there's at least like a string. There's some barrier as opposed
yeah.
to.
And that's the thing. It's like, my thing is the greatest thing about me in drags. Like, I wear bodysuits, but I also wear fishnets. So it's like you could try all you want. Like, even if I'm wearing a thong suit, it's like I'm wearing fishnets. You're not gonna be able to get unless you find like the right spot
Yeah,
in the hole. And even if so, again, I'm singing live. So like, you try and touch me, I'm gonna say something. You try and steal my tip, I'm gonna say something. Like,
call them out. Call them out. I've had people like pull the thong back though before. Like some people you just have to be like, sometimes you do just got to be like that bitch and be like, hey, like back the fuck up.
well, my thing is like, I would say even if I knew somebody, even just like touching their ass, I would like at least ask. Even if I knew somebody, I'd be like,
Yes,
"Can I touch your ass?" Like,
that's because you have respect. And
yeah,
not everybody does.
I've interviewed enough go-go dancers to know what to do and what not to do. Like, the craziest thing, what was it? Somebody said like grabbing onto their dick. I'm like, okay, how would you like that if somebody did that to you?
Like, how would you like someone just to shove their hands in your pants? Like, probably wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, maybe they would enjoy it. I don't know. But most people would not just enjoy someone doing that without, permission.
Yeah. So, what made you audition for Go for the Gold?
Well, obviously, like I've go-goed, so
yeah,
like it appealed to me for that reason. But when a big reason why I moved to LA was just to be able to have experiences that I would never get in Michigan. And like it came across like my Instagram and I was like, you know what? Why the fuck not? Like I go, I enjoy doing it. Like it's a great show that like gives a great platform. And I would never ever get to do this where I'm from. It's like even if it's a little uncomfortable or pushes me out of my comfort zone, like that is what I came here to do. I came here to push myself and grow. And this truly that show, like I know it's like so fucking cliche for people to say. Excuse my dog being such a little shit right now. But it's so cliche to say, but like I learned so much about myself doing that show because I didn't have a choice to say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Right. I mean, I get it. I always said like I would do like, my thing was I talked about editing. Also, somebody pointed out to me, they're like, you say what you say. Like, even if they edit you, they can only edit what you say.
Yeah, that is true. Like they call them story people. And they would like ask you interview questions and not necessarily guide you, but like if they didn't like what you were saying, they would ask you a question in a different way. But you say what you say. Like there's no fibbing that. You said what you said.
Yeah. And my thing is, like, I would go in, like, if I ever did a reality show, I'd go in playing a character. I'd be like, yeah, you can cast me as a bitch. That's fine.
I thought that's how I was going to be portrayed. But luckily, Johnny Moon, who I actually adore, and he's one of my close friends, luckily he got it and not me.
You want to... Yeah, like, that's the thing.
He's being a little monster right now. I apologize.
Yeah.
He's a little puppy, and I just got him, so he's...
Being a puppy, yeah.
Yes. He is doing what puppies do.
Yeah.
But
So, like, I had said before that I wouldn't do reality. My thing is, I would want to do a docuseries, and maybe this is just like me being the egotistical person that I am. I'm like, I think it'd be interesting to like see, especially like behind the scenes of making an album. Like, I feel like that'd be more awesome. And like, granted, yes, you can show parts of my life, and like, but I'd be in full control. Like that feeling of like, oh yeah, I'll just give it over to you, and you can say things. I'm like. Because my thing is, I might say something shady, and then all of a sudden I'll laugh afterwards. But like, if you cut out me laughing, it makes me look like a bitch.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I didn't mean it to come off that way because I like said, like there was an LOL after, but
yeah,
y'all didn't put in the LOL.
So let's see. So okay. So after doing the rap challenge, did you consider putting out a song or like putting out an EP?
Actually, yeah. I Adam, who helped us, like was the producer on ours. I actually reached out to him before the show aired and was like, hey, I'm actually interested in, doing a single or an album or something of that sort. And we were in talks of it. And then just life happened. And I wasn't able to devote as much time as would have been needed to do that. But yeah, it's definitely something I still want to do, because doing that, I realized, hey, like you actually can write. And I didn't know I could before that.
And this was the thing where somebody's like, granted, I remember telling you, like, I did think you did a good job, but like, let's get real. That was Kirby's challenge to win. Like,
100%. Like that was his.
Like once you all heard that like Kirby was a singer, y'all should have been like, okay, we're all gonna lose. Like,
that's why I don't think I'm like the best singer, but I'm not the worst. Like at first I was like, oh, maybe like I will sing. And then he's like, I'm a singer. I'm like, I am not going that route because they're going to compare me to you, and there is no comparison. So you're getting a rap out of this country white boy.
Well, this is the thing. I literally think, like, at least from what I remember, you were like one of the best. I mean, like,
thank you.
I was gonna say, I'm like, should I say who I think the worst is? But we all know Laszlo.
And he knew it. To be fair, he knew it too. He was like, I hate this. Yeah, that was definitely Kirby's. I would say, and this isn't like me being. I thought I was right behind Kirby. Like I think Kirby definitely won, and then I think mine was probably second.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fair with that. Like, that's how I would have put it if I was judging.
I actually love that challenge. Now that I'm like reminiscing in my head, that was so fucking fun to do.
And that was the thing. Like, even Ace said this, because this is the thing. I will admit, I was rooting. Granted, I loved a lot of you, but like, I was rooting for Kirby to win. Like,
I mean, I was like, if it wasn't me, I wanted it to be Kirby or Johnny Moon.
Yeah. And when I was interviewing Greg McKee, and I'm like, and he said like, I wanted Johnny. When I asked him like, who did you want to win? And he said he wanted Johnny Moon to win because he's like, in Portland we stick together as a family. I'm like, did you forget that Peter Apollo is also from Portland? Like, I'm just saying, like, no,
What
but
was
no, I get what it's saying.
what was your favorite challenge to watch?
It was that one. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I loved doing the heels challenge. I think that was my favorite challenge to do. And I wish they would have been able to show like our whole performances. Cause I wish I could get the footage of that. Ugh. Because
Okay.
people turned it the fuck out. And they didn't get to see like all of what people did. But that challenge was so good.
And if I remember correctly, you won that one, right?
I was in the top. They said
Oh,
because what they said was like they were gonna give it to me, but they thought I had heel experience, so they wanted to judge like me and Laszlo as if we were peers, I guess. But I actually had no heel experience going into that challenge, and they're like, "Oh, like had we known that, like we would have given it to you. Like the judges wanted you to win, but the queens had Laszlo win because they thought you both had heel experience."
well, that shouldn't be any way to judge it. In that case, probably Kirby had the most heel experience out of all of you, because like,
right. But I mean, I was happy. Like, I was just happy I didn't go home. To be fair, because I was sweating. I was nervous.
that's why, like, what was it? When people talk about like Drag Race, I'm like, I would never, because of the thing. I literally buy all my costumes. I buy my wigs. Like, I don't know how to sew anything. Also, like, I know if there's a sewing challenge, I'm like, I would literally like go out beforehand. I'm not gonna be like Kasha Davis and be like, let me try and make something. Like, no, bitch. If you don't know how to fucking sew, just be like, I'm tapping out. Like,
I don't think I could make a single thing from scratch. Like, not even a thong. Like, I wouldn't be able to make a single damn thing.
that's the thing where it's like make an outfit, or like the other thing is they spend thousands of dollars. I'm like, listen, I buy my bodysuits from eBay. Like, shit. I spent like $30. Like,
That's where I get a lot of my go-going underwear. Like, it's from like Amazon. Like, I ain't going to like these expensive stores and getting like you don't need it. It looks just the same, but it's $5 as opposed to 50.
that's yeah. It's like one of those things where it's like the other thing that I hear drag queens talk about, and something I know I'd get red for if I went on the show, is like tucking, something clearly I've never done. So like, I would just imagine that like,
I don't know if like you keep up with Canada's Drag Race, but like Venus, who's on the season now, like she doesn't tuck. That's like her thing. So I think it's becoming more, at least on the show, maybe not like in the drag community, like they are becoming more inclusive with like different types of drag, like non-tuck, having body hair. And
well, my thing is I still like, I get the no tucking, the body hair thing. It's like, this is my thing. I'm like, you do you. It's like the having facial hair and having leg hair. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe this is just like me wanting to be more femme. Like, no, I like. Granted, it's like, yes, I have to shave my legs once a week, but it's like,
can't you put like tights over it, or no?
Well, this is the thing. I shave them, and then like I obviously have fishnets over it, which kind of like conceal it. But it's like,
oh, okay.
Well, my thing is now, unfortunately, when you start shaving body hair, it's like once you start shaving, you can't stop unless you laser.
Oh, because it just comes back worse.
Yeah.
Because so the queens who like, because they like some of them wear like multiple like pairs of tights. Though, like they don't have to shave if they're doing that, correct?
No. If you're wearing multiple pairs of tights, my thing is like,
that probably hot. So hot.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, and my thing is very simple. It's literally I wear like I basically wear like 3 thongs on top of each other. So it's like I will have 2 that like constrict closer to the body, and then 1 that's like looser. So it's like, and most of the time I wear black anyway, because it's like especially depending on how I'm eating that week. Like, sometimes I know when I'm not at my thinnest. That like, I'm like,
This is the black bodysuit kind of day.
yeah, it's like I'm not gonna. Here's the thing: when I used to do this podcast, like when I used to just sit behind a desk, when you're sitting behind a desk, you can wear whatever you want. When you're having to like walk out in front of people, it's like okay, I'm not gonna sit there and get read by the other queens in the room. Like,
Well, and people are like videoing and like there's like other like. I get you. That's like when I'm like go green. Like there will be times where like I will wear like a crop top just because I'm like, I went out last night. I had like my drunken food. Like you're getting a black crop top out of me with a thong. Like you're not getting a full shirtless man today.
and that's the thing. Like people don't understand that. Like they're like, you can just starve yourself. I'm like, no.
Who wants to do that?
People do. It's like when I see those skinny queens, it's like, yeah, it's because you all are lip syncing and you have to like death drop and shit. It's like I know what I'm here to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm here to either sing or I'm here to rap. I'm either here to do one of the two, and it's like I can do that in a bodysuit and I can do that standing up.
That's how I am in like I'm not there to do splits or whatever. I'm here to shake my ass, and if I don't eat, I won't have an ass.
Okay, so you're not one of the crazy people who's like doing the splits and all that.
No, I used to be able to like in college and like while I was studying dance. Now I'm not quite as flexible. But like I can still do like it's not just like body rolls and like ass jiggling. Although that's what they want. But I do other things. Just like you are not going to get a split out of me. Absolutely not. Never going to happen. You'll get an ass jiggle. You'll get some body rolls. Like I'm pretty good at lap dancing. That's like, I love lap dancing. Like it's just such like a fun thing to do. But yeah. Mine's like the more like sensual type of dancing as opposed to like a stunt queen.
And I mean, that's fair. And it's like, especially because this is the thing. I don't know how much older than me you are. I've figured you're like around the same age as me, like
probably
if not older.
I'm 31.
Okay, so I'm 29. So like
around the same age.
Yeah. So it's like there's at some point where it's like baby, like this was my thing. So like I only wear I wear go-go boots primarily when I actually almost entirely when I perform. And it's literally just because so at the last job I had, I developed bone spurs in the heels of both my feet.
Oh wow.
So it's like I had to kind of like after like taking almost a year off of drag, I had to like reteach myself how to like walk in shoes. And it's like,
really?
I had to, because this was the thing. Like, I had to take a year off because there's a point where I was at this job, I could barely walk. Like, I was sitting there, like, I was their dishwasher, but also they had like nights where they had hired me to be a server, so like they needed me to serve. There were nights where like I worked in a senior living home, and like there were nights where old people were like, "Do you want to borrow my cane?" Like, yeah, that's how bad I was.
Oh my gosh! And those get removed, correct? Bone spurs?
No. So what it is essentially what it does is if they're bad enough, they get removed. But it's like eventually my body just like healed from not being on my feet not being on my feet 12 hours a day, and it's like now I'm just good.
Well, I'm glad that's done and over with.
Yeah.
I'm glad you learned how to walk.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's like now my thing is I think like that's why I'm such a work, like as they say, like a workhorse now. It's literally because like in terms of like doing this in drag, it's like when you have to take a year off or like almost a year off, like you seeing nothing in your calendar like scares you because it's like I'm like, I had to take so much time off. I already had to take time off. I don't want a vacation. Like,
Yeah. Well, and like, I feel like you would learn to appreciate, like, I mean, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so busy. I wish I could just like do nothing. But like not doing anything for that amount of time, like you do learn to like appreciate being busy.
exactly.
Dang.
Yeah.
How do bone
So-
spurs, how do those happen? Your body just forms them?
So I feel like, yeah, it was something where like my body just, I would say this is at least how I've looked at it upon reflection. That working a job where I'm on my feet 8-12 hours a day combined with drag, not a good combination.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's one day I remember I was literally like, and technically I could have sued the place I worked at because they literally let me walk out limping. They didn't write like a what is it? An incident report or anything like that, like for workman's comp or anything like that. No, they didn't do that. So like I was doing shit, and that was actually I have a question about drugs and alcohol in a little bit, but it's like before I was on health insurance, I was taking to like get through the day for 4 months. I was taking 18 to 24 ibuprofen a day.
Jesus.
Yeah. That was
A lot of
yeah. Yeah. I'm like, once I got like everything situated, I'm like, I have to step back from this. This is not going to be good for me. This is not going to be good for my liver, going to be good for my organs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, but that's the thing. I'm like, that's probably like the one of many things I hate about America is the fact that health insurance is a given to everybody. Like, it just should be.
No, I agree. Like I went through a time where this was back when I lived in Michigan, where like I wasn't employed and I did not have access to healthcare. And it wasn't from like lack of trying or anything like that. And like there should be something for everybody, even if it's just like bare minimum, like a big ass plan. Like everyone should have access to healthcare. Like it is a necessity.
Yeah. And it's like to think, so once I developed them, so I went from so I got dropped from my dad's health insurance at I think it was like 26. I think it's the last age. So I went 2 years without it. And then like once I developed the bone spurs, it's like at that point you don't have a choice. Like it's either you treat this or you keep on going in pain. And it's like my thing was I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not even 30 years old and I'm sitting here. I was perfectly healthy before and now I'm struggling to walk.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's crazy. Like
Yeah. There are some things I don't like about how our government does things, and that is one of them.
Exactly. So, okay. So some of these questions I can skip, so like it'll be easier. So, did you know before the unveiling of the season finale that you had won, or is it like you found out that day?
No, I didn't know until like the episode aired itself. Like they filmed both of us winning. They kept it very hush hush. I was actually very surprised. I thought like it would slip somehow somewhere, and neither one of us had any clue until like the day they aired it and had like the little finale party.
So okay, so that was probably what, like about a year at least, or maybe a little bit less from when you like filmed the finale to when it actually like aired.
Yes, we filmed it like September and then it aired the following August, so about a year.
Yeah. That's gotta be crazy when it's like, because you know this stuff about this show and like,
and you can't say anything. And
no,
like
I knew.
like people are nosy and they want to know like how far did you go, who gets eliminated, like this and that, and you can't say a word, and it's hard.
I know, like I did, like I kept, because I knew that Kirby had gone all the way like to the final episode because
Mhm.
when I interviewed Kirby in June, Kirby told me, and like
Mhm.
that was the thing where I was like, I kept it hush hush. I'm like, I ain't gonna spill your secrets. Like everyone's like, how do you do that? I'm like, that's how you get people to trust you, and that's how you get people to come back. You
Yeah.
gotta keep secrets.
No, for real. Yeah, it was not easy. It was not easy to not say anything.
Especially because did you make up like this excuse, or did you tell people that you were going to the film Go-Go for the Gold when you went?
I told them I was going on the show. I didn't tell
You didn't.
them. I was like, hey, because I think it filmed for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Ace told me.
So I just told people like I was filming for a show, but I didn't tell them which one.
Oh, so you didn't do that I'm going to summer camp thing that like...
No, I was like,
yeah.
They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm going to film the show. And they're like, what show? I was like, that I'm not going to tell you. Just I'm going on a show.
That's where, what was it? See, I would have to make up a show if I went to a singing competition, because it's like, theoretically, I've only auditioned for one of them. I've auditioned for American Idol twice, and like, somebody was, what is it? One of my fans was shocked. They're like, I'm like, yeah, I didn't make it past the first round. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And it's like, my thing is, I've always felt like an outsider, so I'm like, maybe me like getting the boot or like getting the no, we don't want you. It's like, that's kind of in some ways like rock and roll. It's like,
yeah, well, and like I feel like American Idol, like it is very targeted towards a certain type of performer or type of like.
Yeah,
they don't really have a lot of like electric, like metal. I mean, sometimes they have like someone who maybe kind of fits in that category, but that's not typically like where they veer off to.
See, if I were like to pitch a show to somebody, I'd be like, let's pitch a singer-songwriter show, because there's literally not one of those out there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a show I would do well in, because it's like, I can make a beat, I can write my own lyrics, like I know how to do it. And it's like, but the thing of, I even look back at my choir days, and like I look at some of the people who were like quote unquote what I call show ponies, like the people who like that was their whole life. I'm like, no, this ain't for me. I was the person who like, I would do the vocal slides and I'd have the choir teacher stare right at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm Mariah Carey.
Yeah. Like the ear and everything.
I do. It's like, that's my thing. Like, I will say, I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like, if you like succeeded in high school, you probably peaked. Like, that was your like.
I agree. Like, this is so bad to say, but there are people in high school that were like the shit, and like now I like they'll pop up like, because I still have like, I'm not super active on Facebook, but my whole family's on there, so like I get on there every now and then, and people will pop up, and I was like, oh, okay, like got it, like that's where you're at now. And a lot of the people, yes, who peaked in high school plateaued, I think, after.
And it's like, yeah, and it's like, all of us, it's like, we all, well, there were some popular gay people in high school. That's my response to you. But my thing is, it's like, being the outcast is like, it's cooler anyway. It's like,
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about, at least my experience with the gay community, that does push me to not regress or like to not plateau. Like I constantly like, I want to do more. I want to, I don't know, like be healthier, find new experience. Like I never want to like fall backwards. And I think that is something that like the community pushes me to do, because I feel like a lot of us are very, a a lot of us just want more for ourselves and want better and like don't want to settle. And that is something that, yes, cannot always be a good thing in our community, but also something I really appreciate because it forces me to keep pushing myself.
Exactly. So, okay. Oh, so what's your dating life been like?
Girl. I am single now. I've been single for 4 months. But so my most recent relationship was, well, it started out as a throuple. And like I was the one who joined them. Like they were an existing couple for like 3 years. I met them at an orgy. And then like we met up like the following week and like we talked for like a month and a half and we're like, yeah, like this is working, blah blah blah. I moved in with them after like 6 months of dating and like it kind of fell apart. I didn't realize they had as many issues as they had prior to entering. Like had they told me everything that had happened prior to me, I don't think I would have moved so quickly with them.
Yeah.
And then the one ended up leaving us. And then me and the other one still continued to try to date. But it was very difficult because he like wanted to be completely open off the get-go. I wanted to be like open but with some parameters, and just those boundaries were not respected, and it caused some issues. But like once we split, we also like we both continued to live together for 3 months.
Oh wow.
And that was very difficult. And then like it was just like not a healthy situation. So now and then that one like met someone and is now living with him after 2 months of dating. They seem to be doing fine, so kudos to them. I'm single and I am very much enjoying being single.
See, my thing is, as I said, my special friend. This is the thing. We had the conversation the last time we were with each other, where he's like, even though he knows that I want to move to Detroit, he's like he wants to try doing long distance, and I'm like, I'm willing to. I don't know if it's gonna work, but
It's tough.
well,
I've done
this is the
too, and that is tough.
yeah. I mean, the thing was, I knew he wanted to move to Orlando, and like originally my plan was to move to Atlanta, but then the economy got the way it is, and Detroit became cheap. So it's like, but it's like I knew I was done with Florida, and it's like my thing was I knew I didn't want to go back to Orlando because it's like been there, done that, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like he's not originally from Florida, he's originally from California, and it's like maybe that's why you want to go to Orlando, like. I
Yeah.
feel like once you've lived there, like I lived there for almost 4 years. Like I have no interest in
Going back.
moving back out. I mean, it was great. It was great. It's where I discovered myself. It's where I discovered drag. I will always be grateful for that. But it's like, as I said, I'm over it. So like that is that situation. In terms of in the past, the longest relationship I've had has been a year.
Mine was a year and a half as well. That was also in a throuple, but it was a long distance throuple.
Oh wow.
And they had been together 10 years. So like they had a little bit more of a foundation. And the only reason that didn't work out is because they lived in DC and they wanted me to go there and I was still in college and like I wasn't going to give up my education. So it was just becoming like emotionally too hard. Like the relationship itself was healthy. It was just too hard emotionally to like be apart at that point. So then we just decided, hey, like let's put a pin on it, kind of move on, and if we find our way back, we do.
See, my thing was I got a note. So we were living together when they broke up with me, and like I got a note with the key in the door. They had moved all their shit out when I was at work one day, and like I got a note that like broke down the whole relationship. And then like towards the end, I got a note that it said I'm transitioning,
Oh,
and she
a
was
lot
like,
better.
and she's like, I know you won't accept me for the way that I am, which she wasn't wrong about, because I would say I didn't know a lot about trans people then, so it's like
Mhm.
I hadn't really had much interaction. This was theoretically during my college years, and it's like, so that relationship ended, and then I did the stupid thing. Be smart, you're taking time. You realize when you're older, taking time is a smart idea. I got a relationship immediately after with somebody that lasted a month.
That's what. So like my most recent exes, like they both literally got into relationships very soon after we split up. Like the one I think was dating someone a month after leaving the both of us. And then the other one was basically living with their current boyfriend like after 2 months of talking, not even dating. And and this is like some tea. They were like dating for a week. He then broke up with his boyfriend, moved back into our apartment to try things again with me, and then moved back out, back into his house to start dating him again. I was like, girl, I'm like, I don't even care what happens. You are not coming back to this place after this. Like, no. It was such a mess. It was so messy.
Okay, so I haven't said this part before. I let him move into my place only because he was living in Daytona Beach, and clearly I was living in Orlando, and those aren't like really close together. That's like at least an hour and a half away. So he moved in, moved all his stuff, and then like all of a sudden he's like, I want an open relationship, but I want to do things with you together. I'm like, fine.
Okay.
And then I went to work one day, and he got sucked off by two guys while I was at work.
See, this is my like, I have nothing against open relationships. It is like if there are boundaries set, respect the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your guys' boundaries are like whatever, we're just gonna be single, but come back and be together at the end of the day, fine, cool, that's your relationship.
Yeah.
But if there are boundaries like, hey, we only do stuff together, or like only if we're both into the same person or whatever it is, like that's when I start having a problem. If we mutually agree on something and then not both parties are respecting what was agreed upon. That's where I have no tolerance for it.
And then, of course, being young, I was like, okay, so I'll get back at him. So he went to work one day, and I got fucked by somebody. Like, and then,
Hey, I love a good revenge. I mean, I'm a Scorpio, so.
and then, like, as he was breaking up with me, so this was the one time I dated a white guy. One time. He screamed this with my front door open to my apartment. He said, all you ever want is that N-word dick. And he said this is my predominantly black neighborhood. I'm thinking, if somebody shoots this motherfucker, I will defend you. Like,
what? That is some nerve. Like, girl.
I wanted to be like, well, you're not entirely wrong, but
Yeah. You're wrong, but you're not wrong. Like, you're wrong in the way you said it, but
yeah.
the sentiment is not wrong.
No, because and this was the thing. It's like, I didn't know he was racist, because the thing was, we had hooked up at one point. What was it? It's weird that he was racist, because I remember him when we were together sucking a black dick of somebody we share. So it's interesting that you're racist, like, now. When you put a black dick in your mouth, bitch, like...
Yeah, you didn't care then. Some people are like, just... I don't get how some people are the way that they are. Like, obviously, I know everybody goes through stuff and it makes them who they are, but, like, there are some things where it's just, like, it is common sense. Like, common sense. that like
Yeah.
you don't behave a certain way.
No, and it's like, well, first of all, being racist, I'm sorry. It's like, I understand you are upset, but it's like, think about your surroundings. And when actually, I will say this, like, karma's a bitch, because after he left me, a month after he left me, he got HIV. So, I mean,
The world
I'm
works
like,
in mysterious ways.
yeah, and I'm like, dodge the bullet there. I'm like,
The world works in mysterious ways. Maybe it was like a, hey, you've been a shitty person your whole life. Like, we're gonna, bring you back down to earth and let you know that you're not all that.
yeah, he didn't tell me that. I ran into his former boss when I was going to buy poppers for a guy at a bar that like I had hooked up with. I've never done poppers, but like I was going to buy them, and I'm like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, your ex is now dating somebody with HIV, and he now has it." I'm like, I'm pretty sure he got fired from the job. So I'm like, so you're still talking to him? Because I stopped talking to him. Like when we stopped, I'm like, so my first ex ever who I dated in Orlando, we actually recently just got back in contact. And it was literally because he saw me covering my friend who's a musician song, and he like tagged me. This friend was on a reality show, and it's like, that's how he came back to get me. I'm like, wow. Like, what a weird, like,
It is
turn
crazy
of events.
how like life finds ways. Just how like people like come back into your life just like so randomly.
Yeah.
Just the world works very in curious ways.
And he like apologized to me for like being a jerk. I'm like, I remember me being the jerk in the relationship, but I'll take the apology. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Like,
Thanks.
it's like maybe you were, because this was the thing. It's like, obviously, like being a bigger person, I had insecurities about myself, of course, because like, and I dated the first person who like basically gave me any attention, and I wasn't really attracted to him, and like I kind of told him that as we were breaking up. But I did a shitty thing. I'll admit it. I broke up with him the day after Valentine's Day, which I'm like,
if it ain't right, you can't when that moment happens.
Thank you, Johnny Cakez, for giving me a pass on that one.
I mean, it'd be worse to drag it along another day, right?
Yeah. But it's like you can't break up with somebody on Valentine's Day, and anyone who's like, yes, no, you can't, no.
Valentine's Day, birthdays, anniversaries,
Christmas.
Oh, and Christmas.
And Christmas, yeah.
And New Year's. I feel like New Year's would kind of suck too. New Year's
literally, yeah, literally just like, this is the thing. If you're gonna break up, kiss, have sex, and then break up the next day.
Right. Like me, and that's how. Yes, that is how I am was with my most recent ex. Like, we were broken up, but we would fight, and it didn't matter how angry we were at each other. Like, the sex was good, and it didn't matter what kind of fight we were in. You have sex, and it's like, oh, everything's fine in the world. But we're still broken up.
Yeah. So how is that living with? I've never had to live with an ex before. So how is that? Like,
it was my first time living with anybody. So like that in and of itself was a learning curve for me, let alone then having to live with them while not dating them. It was a lot. Like for me, it was very emotionally and mentally draining, because like when we broke up, I took time to myself, and I wasn't out just like hooking up with everyone, staying out all hours of the night. And like it was a 1-bedroom, so like we still had to share a bed. And like he went and had like this like really big hoe phase where like he would leave, come back from a hookup, leave an hour later for another hook. Like there were times he had 4 hookups in a day, and just like me, still like I still had feelings, and he did too, but I just processed it in a different way. Like it was hard for me to watch. Like it was hard. He never brought anyone back home and did it here. Thank God. Like that was a very strict rule.
Oh, okay. That's not where I thought the story was going. I thought you like he had 4 hookups in a day, and I was just lying next to him asleep.
But it was hard. Like it was hard. Like being around, like knowing he's in like the bathroom prepping and like leaving and coming back and like it was hard just for me to watch, knowing that that's what he was doing, because it wasn't my choice to break up. Now looking back, I'm glad that we did, because one, it was so toxic, but also like I needed to grow more before I could be in a relationship, and I didn't know that until after we had broken up. I thought I was like, fine, I'm mature, like I'm gonna be this amazing boyfriend, and after being broken up and like really reflecting on myself, I was like, girl, like you have some growth to do before you should be in a relationship.
Exactly, and that's why like I hadn't ever found one, because it's the thing. Like I felt like putting the like rape and sexual assault like into songs is what finally made me like realize that like, oh yeah, I'm past it now, because it's like, and even like confronting the rape as rape, because for years I had gone around and been like, I was sexually assaulted twice, and it's all of a sudden I had this thing where I'm like, no bitch, you need to tell yourself that you were raped. Because if you don't tell yourself that you're raped, you're gonna put it in like a tiny little box and like, just like store it away, and it's like always gonna be there waiting for you to like turn the door and be like, ah, like yeah. So no, you have to say that it's rape.
Yeah, that's growing up. I have a tendency to say sexual assault too, because the term molested is so uncomfortable for me to say. But like I was growing up, and like I kind of went through the same thing. I would say, oh, I was sexually assaulted, I was taken advantage of, just because like that word, like rape, I feel is just so uncomfortable for people to say and admit. And like I went through a very similar process like very recently through therapy, just because I knew there were some demons that I hadn't really gotten rid of yet from like when I was younger.
And it's literally you become stronger on the other end, and it's like now I feel like that's the other reason with my special friend. It's like now I've told you everything. I don't want to have to go through having to tell this to another guy. So like, let's just make this work. Like
yeah, and I think that's why I was so attached to like my ex, because like there were things that I told him that I just had never told anybody. And like you do form like this deep connection with someone that is hard to let go of once you've expressed a part of yourself that other people have not gotten to see. So it's like, shit, now I have to go through this all over again with somebody else. Like, do I even bother sharing this with them now? Because this person left me. And like, so do I just keep it to myself? Like, it's a very interesting thing that like we have to go through as victims of sexual assault, rape, etc. Like, do we even bother to tell this person this? Because are they even going to be in my life? Like, do I share this part of myself that's so like deep with this person?
And my other thing is like we've been like romantic kissing, like having I've developed feelings because we've been hooking up since 2019. So it's like we're like
okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's not like something new, and it's like this is clearly longer than any relationship I've been in. So it's like I could absolutely make it work with you in theory.
Yeah, I mean that's what 6 years, 5 years.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a good chunk of time.
And it's like, plus it's like I don't want to have to teach a man what you already know.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's not even. This is the thing, and like you probably even in it. Well, you have bottoms, so you probably know this. It's like it's a very simple thing, and I have this very simple rule with men. It's like if you're not eating my ass before you fuck me, you're not fucking me. Like it's that simple.
You're not just shoving it in with no like you're not just shoving it in without like playing with it first. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
It's like putting it in with no lube. It's like the equivalent. Like you gotta like warm it up a little bit. Like
Yeah.
you don't just start working out without warming up. So like, why would you have sex
Exactly.
without warming up?
And some people are like, because I don't have time. It's like, well, then
Well, bitch, you better make time.
yeah. That's why somebody's like, my thing is like with quickies, somebody's like, do you have time for a quickie? I'm like, no, you talking to the wrong bitch. Like,
Not the one. Now, if I'm topping and a bottom's like, do you have time for a quickie?
yeah.
I sure do. I'll be right over. But if I'm gonna bottom, no, you're not just gonna.
Well,
If I'm going through the work one to like prepare, I'm not getting just like this little pump and dump situation. No.
no, that's the thing. Like, that's the other thing. Like, my special friend is a multi-comer, so I feel like that's what he likes in me too, is that I can do it. It's just like, I think, what was it? The most amount, I think I held 9 bullets one time, and then literally at that point, I'm like, you need to stop. Like, I know you probably have more coming. You need to stop. Like,
I'm trying to. I think there was a time with, for whatever reason, like sex after like the sex the morning of after a night out is like always the best for some reason. I don't know why, but it's just like always the best. Like me and my ex had woken up one time and like we went at it probably like 5 or 6 times within like the course of an hour. Like,
yeah.
Like he would fuck me, he'd get off, we'd sit for like 5 minutes, and then be like, "Do you want to go again?" Sure. And like I
don't even need the go between. Like, I literally, like, when I'm saying 9 loads, like 9 loads isn't like he just left it in and just like boom. Yeah.
See, that is a talent. That's a talent. On both. For both.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, that's the thing. Like, when he got 3 loads out of me, like, that was one after another after another. Like, that was my first time. It's like my first time coming from topping, and like all of a sudden you think like you're gonna get more. Well, he probably would have gotten more, but I'm like, you need to go to work. Like,
yeah. Like,
I'm
time restraint.
Yeah, it's like I love this, like, but I don't want you to get fired because you had sex with me. Like,
right. Which I've not fired, but there are times where I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go to work a little late. And I'm like, okay, I actually can't do that anymore.
well, I mean, you're the HR person. Who are you going to report to? Like,
That's
if you're, they report you to HR. You're the HR person. Like,
that's fair. But everyone has a boss. I still got a boss, but that is a fair point. I probably do have some more leniency or more wiggle room than others.
There was a time actually at my current job where I didn't have a boss for almost a month, and like,
that'd be so nice.
and somebody's like, well, what do you do if you need this? I'm like, listen, you go look for somebody else and like ask them the question that you would have asked your supervisor. Like, that's
right,
all you have to do.
Figure it out.
Yeah. And it's like, what? Somebody not to monitor my phone calls? I'm like, look at it this way. This is a month I'm not going to get fired because nobody's there to fire me. So like,
right. That would be so nice.
The craziest thing was at this job. So they wanted to like, when we were like transferring calls, they wanted us to like ask permission before they transferred calls. And like, I've just recently switched supervisors, and she tried to get me to go back to that. I'm like, no. I'm like, if I'm going to transfer a call, I'm going to transfer a call so you can pull me into coaching and tell me that
you're getting
this wrong. I'm like, I know where the call's supposed to go. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, just because you let the new people on their like transfer calls over the fuck they want, like, that's your fault, not mine. Like,
don't punish me for them.
So, what's your relationship to drugs and alcohol?
I mean, I definitely drink. I wouldn't say excessively, but I mean, when I first moved here, I did go through like a partying phase because I was not used to just like having access to clubs and bars like right there.
Right.
Like I did go through phases where like I was out like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I would go out like on weeknights before work and show up hungover. Like I grew out of that. Drugs, I have since I moved here. Yes, like I have done some. I think I fell into probably the stereotypical like small town gay who moves to LA and then like just tries things to try them because it's the cool thing to do or because everyone's doing it. And I kind of lost like some of like my Midwesternness for a while. And now I think I mean, I know I'm in a place where I feel comfortable saying no. I don't feel like I'm like being lame or a loser or that I'm not cool or whatever for like, no, I actually don't want to bump. No, like I don't want that pill. Like where before I didn't feel comfortable doing that because like I was new and I thought I would move here and be like, you know what? I don't care if they offer me drugs or not. Like I'm gonna say no. Like it's not gonna phase me. And like it is harder to say no than I thought it was going to be because I didn't really know many people here. So I was like, shit, like if I'm gonna make friends, like this is what I have to do. And then I realized like, no, I'm just making friends with the wrong friends.
Right. Okay.
So now I drink. Like I drink. I'm not giving that up. It's not as much as it was. And then like I have learned to say no to other things.
Right. So so in terms of drugs, I already told you about drugs. So like that's the only thing I had. So like in terms of alcohol, I had like I'm not like completely sober, but I don't drink as much as I used to because I had a night where I was handed drink after drink after drink after drink. And then I got in my car and I had to drive an hour home.
Ooh.
And I made it almost all the way home, and that's when I got pulled over by a cop. And like luckily my dad came and picked me up, so I didn't have to get a DUI, but it's like from there I'm like
is it worth it?
yeah, it's like my thing is like I'm like, first of all, I'm a singer, so it's like it's better for my throat to have like water and tea than it is to be like drinking all this alcohol anyway. It's like and plus I've seen people act like such assholes that as I was saying before, like the drag queen who like shit talks my drag, she like I went to an event out of drag and she didn't know who I was, and she was like drunk off her ass and she was hitting on me.
Not that.
And I'm and I let her do it because part of me wanted to be like, bitch, you fucking know who I am. But like obviously the shady
like,
part of me.
Shit, but you were just fucking me, or like
it's like it's interesting and it's like
well, and nowadays like I'm so like I'm very aware of like how I'm behaving when I'm drunk or whatever, because people can just take one little video of you and post it on the internet and you are canceled. It goes to your job, all sorts of shit. So I'm like, I am making sure like if I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna drink, but I'm not gonna get to a point where I cannot control what I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's also the fact of like now especially you're the winner of a show, so it's like now eyes are on you even more.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Like I've had people like at the bar like come up to me, they recognize me, etc. Like that makes me super aware of like it for some reason just triggers something in my head to be like, okay, Johnny, like how drunk are you? Like maybe put that drink down because like there's someone here that you know recognize, which it doesn't happen like I'm not like going out and I'm like Angelina Jolie or anything.
yeah,
But, like people come up to me like in WeHo who like recognize me, and I'm like, okay, like you got to be more conscious of how you're behaving.
like shit, I ain't even on TV, and like all of a sudden that event I went to and somebody's like, oh, like what's your name, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm Prince Electrodime. They're like, oh yeah, I've heard of who you are, and I'm like, so it's like you do have to be like that, where it's like
Good.
it's like I am professional, I theoretically like.
There's always eyes watching.
Granted, is this the show where like? Is this the show where I'm curing cancer? No, this is the show where I talk to Go-Go Boys about like getting
Fuck.
fingered. Like, but I occasionally have serious interviews. Like, I actually just messaged somebody today. We're gonna have to find a time to work out where it's like they were like somebody who's like an HIV survivor who's like talking about their experience in prison. I'm like,
Oh wow.
I'm like, this sounds fascinating. Like, I can get a story out of this.
That would
But
be
of course,
actually really cool.
yeah. As I said, we're gonna work it out. Like, they said they're busy this month. They're like try me in a month. I'm like okay, fair. Because I miss the days. Like back when I first booked Johnny, I used to be able to like boom, 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 boom,
Mhm.
booking people all the time. Not like that anymore.
It's like, oh, I'll be free
Unfortunately.
up in a month.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I was booking people at one point 2 months in advance. Like, but
Oh, wow.
yeah.
I don't even know what I'm 3 days from now.
See, that was the worst part. It was like I would be booking people and it's like then all of a sudden they couldn't do it and I'm like, well, because my thing was I didn't want to like this happened to me my very first interview. So I offered 2 people the same slot at the same time. And I had to be the guest who'd be like, sorry, I didn't realize, I didn't look at a calendar when I booked you. And I had to tell one of them no. And I'm like,
sorry.
well, this is the thing. I ended up rebooking the person, but it's like, in my defense, I had to weigh it. I'm like, well, one of these people's is going to an award show the day after you're interviewing them that they have to promote. And one of these people will have the same OnlyFans content when you interview them later. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that makes it easier.
Yeah, that's fair.
And okay. I know we're running long. I only got 2 more questions left.
Oh, it's
so
okay.
like I know this is the thing. Like everyone's like, I'm getting along with Johnny. There might be a part 2.
Hey, I'm down.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on how the LGBT community is being treated today? On how the LGBT community is being treated today?
It kind of there's 2 parts to this answer, I guess. I think society has came a long way from like in the past couple of years. However, I do think there are still members of the LGBT community that definitely need more representation and respect, like trans individuals, like
Absolutely.
basically anything out of like gay. I feel like the gays, like they're not like the work isn't done, but we're definitely in a much better spot than the rest of the queer umbrella. So I do think there's a lot of work to be done, specifically with trans individuals right now, because like they're not safe. Like it's sad to say that, but they are not safe when they go outside, and they deserve to feel safe. I can almost get emotional talking about this. Like it's not fair that someone has to live their life in fear. And this goes the same for like people of color, etc. Like there's no reason that someone should have to step outside of their house and feel unsafe or that they're going to get attacked. Like it's not okay. And like me as a white gay man, I don't walk outside in fear for my life.
Right.
There are trans individuals who walk outside in fear for their life, and they should not feel that way. And there needs to be more work done by members of the community, but also members outside of the community to make sure that we're looking out for each other and that we're getting equal rights and that we're being treated equally.
And also, to interviewers out there, do not ask trans people the same questions. Like, I will say this. Who was I interviewing that like, oh, I was interviewing a Reese Swanzer and she's like literally said like, I asked her the question of, so kind of like how did you discover the fact that you were trans basically? Like, and she's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I'm thinking at this point, I'd only been interviewing people for 5 months. I'm like, you've got people who have been interviewing people for decades. who don't know how to fucking ask the question that I learned how to ask after doing this for 5 months.
I think it's because like people don't educate themselves. Like, do your research, learn about the community, learn about the people that you're interviewing. Like, if you do your research and you, not to say like maybe they did and they just like missed some things, but like come prepared.
Yeah. Like, I do my best. Like, granted, most of these guests, most Go-Go Boys don't have a Wikipedia page, so I kind of have to like piece the pieces
Well,
together.
yeah,
But it's like,
that's
but it's
fair.
like, but it's like on a guest where I can do research, I literally do research. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think probably like, I don't know if the people she's interviewed with were part of the community, but like, I do think we have a different understanding of what they go through. So maybe the questions we asked will be a little bit more unique or more on point than someone who hasn't experienced what people of the LGBTQ community go through and like how that process of figuring out you're gay or figuring out you're trans, like people don't figure out they're straight. You know what I mean? Like, so some people get that there's even a process that goes with it.
Right. And it's also, it's like, this is why I haven't had any non-queer people on this podcast. And I think I'm going to keep it that way because it's like, what am I going to ask a straight person? Like, what was it like waking up and realizing that you were,
Yeah,
that you like just like liked pussy? Like, literally, that's newsflash. Like, society teaches you everything. Like,
exactly. We have to teach ourselves.
yeah.
Or like ask people before, like who came before us, hey, how do I navigate this? Like,
Yeah.
hetero, straight individuals, like society teaches them everything that they need to know, or their parents can teach them that. My parents couldn't teach me how to be gay. My brothers couldn't teach me how to be gay. There was no book on it. Like, I had to figure it out myself, or I had to like find people that were a part of the community to help me figure it out. Like, there's less resources for us.
Or watch
make
porn.
Us have to do more work.
Yeah. I was gonna say, or watch porn. Which, by the way, if you think it, to all the young queer kids out there, if you think porn is real sex, no.
No. It's not. That is like very stop and go. Okay, now get in this position. Okay, now get in this position.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, it is not as fun as people think it might be.
No. Actually, there's one more before I'm going to ask you the last question. So, has anyone approached you to, or have you ever considered doing an OnlyFans?
Yeah, so I had one for a while when I was in Michigan. Like, what a place to start in OnlyFans. But like, I would go to Chicago a lot, and there were a lot of like, this was back when OnlyFans was still fairly new. This was probably like 3 years ago. So I haven't really done anything with it in the past couple of years, but it is a lot. I will say this, like, you really have to be diligent about that shit. Like, you have to have like your content created, like ready to post weekly. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose. Like, the upkeeping that goes into OnlyFans and like people's Twitters, like, it is a tremendous amount of work.
And also, it's like, see, my thing, because I had somebody trying to convince me to do it, and my thing was, I'm like, listen. At this point, I didn't know I was gonna make an album. Now that I know I'm gonna make an album, like, definitely, I don't want to sit there and have to be like, yeah, I did this at one point, and like, now I want you to take me seriously as an artist, blah blah blah. It's like, no, like,
Yeah, I have moments. I do have moments like that where I'm like, okay, like, what if so and so comes across here, blah blah blah. But like, I've done it, so what am I like? Am I gonna sit here and just be like, yeah, I did it, and I'm embarrassed of it? Like, no, I did it. I did it because I wanted to do it, and if you feel a type of way about it, you feel a type of way about it. That's not my problem.
and money was probably tight. Like, that's honestly like the main
I
reason people.
I was a poor college student.
Yeah.
Pay my bills. Like,
Yeah.
Would I have done it if I didn't have to? No, probably not. But is it something that I've done and I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that? No, because I'm a firm believer, as corny as this is, everything I have ever done in my life has got me where I am right now.
Exactly.
Whether OnlyFans, failed relationships, drunken, embarrassing nights where I acted a fool, all of those got me where I am right now, and I like where I'm at right now. So
that's honestly like the real thing. Like when the thing I have to tell people, it's like the thing is like I'm thinking like I'm turning 30 this year, and it's literally I'm like, if you had asked me at like I don't know 22, 23, if I was gonna make it to 30, I would have been like, hell fucking no. Because I was suicidal twice, like during like the latter part of my teen years in my 20s. I'm like I didn't. That's why when people say like you should have plans for the future, like plan for what future? I didn't expect to be alive. Like
yeah, no, yeah,
like,
no. That's. I mean, I went through similar times, and that's why like when people like give me shit about certain things that I've done, I'm like, I'm just happy to be alive right now, honestly.
yeah.
So like, if you want to give me shit for doing something, fine. I literally could not give a flying fuck. I'm just happy to be alive. So either be happy for me, or like, see you later.
Yeah, and it's like honestly, it's like first of all, I'm gonna count Detroit as part of the East Coast. I know it's not really,
Well, that's
or
not.
Michigan isn't part of the East Coast. I mean, theoretically, it's in the Eastern time zone, so I guess it kind of counts. But
Yeah,
but it's like Johnny's from the East Coast, like nice person, at least from what I'm getting to see. I mean, granted, I've only spent 2 hours with you, but I feel like if you spend like over like half an hour with somebody, you kind of get to know them.
yeah. I feel like you can gauge. Like, this is how I am. Like with that. Like, this is me. Like my
Yeah.
mannerisms, the way that I talk. Like, I feel like after about a half hour, I agree with you. Like, you can get a vibe for someone, and you know whether it's someone you're gonna vibe with or not.
Yeah, and it's like that thing is like to all the people. First of all, I'll say this to all the people. Actually, I wouldn't say this. I haven't really been turned down for this podcast. I've had people ask for money, and I'm like, fuck no. Like, I'm like, I ain't paying you to come on here. Like,
No, you shouldn't have to.
I had what was it? The craziest amount somebody asked me for. They asked me for $1,000. I'm like, I'm thinking for $1,000, you're writing the questions for me. Like,
Right? Like, you're doing all the work.
yeah. That was during the beginning. It's like, first of all, I ain't gonna say who this is, but it's like you're literally a washed up porn star at this point. Like, you're old, you're in your well, that's not mean. When you're in porn and you're in your 30s, you're old. Like,
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately how the porn world and the gay world works. Once you hit your 30s, like, you're on the downhill. But truly, I feel like, honestly, since I've hit 30, I feel like I kind of feel in my prime, to be honest.
well, you're hot. Like, that's literally like if you're like busted looking in your 30s, like, well, actually, before we get into the misconceptions question, I'm just gonna say this. Like, I literally posted on my story. I'm like, I'm gonna start like the most controversial statement of 2024. I said, like, not all hot people are cute.
I agree. No, I 100% agree with that. Some people wouldn't get that statement, but I completely get what you mean.
Because it's like, yeah, you might have a hot body, but
No,
look like gremlin or like a bridge troll underneath, like.
I completely agree. Like,
Yeah.
1000%.
So you're gonna hear this. So what's the biggest misconception about you?
The one that I'm most surprised about is that a lot of people think that, like, before they meet me, like, they have this idea that I'm going to be a bitch. And I'm like, why do you guys think this? And like a lot of times it's like, oh, just like we go on your social media and you just give off like bitch vibes. Because a lot of like what I post is like, oh, like I don't give a fuck what you have to say, or like I'm gonna do what I want to do, and like that's kind of like the vibe a lot of my captions are for the most part, unless it's like my family or dog. And like we just think we're gonna meet you and you're just gonna be like this uber bitch to us. And like, no, like one, that is literally not the person that I am. But I am very much the type of person that I don't really care what anyone has to say or think about me. Like,
Right.
it is my life, not yours.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. And if you don't like that, too bad. But that's not the same as being a bitch. Like, I am always going to be nice to you unless you give me a reason not to be. But like when I meet someone, like I say hi, like I'm super friendly. I get to know them. Like I listen. Like I'm very interactive. I will never ever give someone the cold shoulder that says hi to me. And a lot of times people think like, oh, like I was nervous to come say hi to you because I thought, you wouldn't say hi to me because I'm not this or I'm not that. And I'm like, no, like that is not the person that I am.
Right. And it's like, I mean, that probably falls into the intimidating category. I would say I've also fallen into that same thing. And literally, what was that? Yeah, Peter Apollo told me that before, like, because I had asked him, like, when I was in his live one time, I'm like, and he's like, I'm intimidated by you. I'm like, you're intimidated by me? I'm like one of the nicest people ever. Like,
I think people with strong personalities, people confuse that with being intimidating or a bitch.
Yeah. It's like, that's one of them. And then the other thing is, I didn't help the last 2 seconds, but like, it's that I've been told I'm shady. I'm not shady. I am opinionated.
And there's 100% a difference between being shady and being opinionated or being honest. Like if I'm being honest with you, that's not shade.
Yeah.
That's just honesty.
And it's like most of the times that I'm being quote unquote shady, it's not like I tag people. I just make a general statement on my story, and like they might know that I'm talking about them, but I don't tag
like
them.
Giving them the courtesy of not saying their name, which you could, but don't.
What was it? I'm just gonna think. One of them. I'll just. No, I'm just thinking of like the last example I did. Oh, so I literally put. It's interesting that some people say they need quote unquote publicity for their album, and yet they don't post, and yet they don't promote their music videos at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice way to say, like,
sometimes you got your own publicity.
Yeah, it's like when I'm out there making my music, trust, like, you will see it plastered over everything, like,
mm-hmm.
And like, especially because I know this is my thing. When I get around to making music videos, if anyone wants to give me money, like give me hundreds of dollars, literally when I post this on YouTube, my Venmo will be in the description of the video. Because like, I know my ideas. Like I've looked at my ideas. I'm like, I'm gonna need like a Hollywood production budget, like to do this shit. Like,
videos are not cheap,
especially not when you want to shoot in a set that's like a mental institution and a set that's like a church, where I'm literally, first of all, it's not like I'm going to be able to shoot in a church, because like the scenes are going to be me dancing and performing and like making out with making out with like backup dancers and like having them like simulate fucking me in a church. Like what?
Yeah, I don't think a church would
even the like most liberal of churches ain't gonna let me do that.
No, that one will need to be a set.
And I need to find go-go dancers who's like, well, I need to find performers. Like one of them I'm pretty sure I can get, because like he literally for Chris is dressed up as Jesus in like the thorns, and then like all of a sudden
Mm.
took off to reveal like he was bloody and stuff. I'm like, okay, so you have no problem mocking religion, so I'm gonna be able
Yeah.
to get you.
You'll be-
Like,
You're fine.
but anyway, with that being said, it was definitely a pleasure getting to meet you.
Likewise, this was.
Yeah.
It did not feel like 2.5 hours. I will tell you that. Like this went by so quick.
And like this is the thing, like as I said, like part 2, I'll probably listen to this and have questions for part 2, and like I'll reach out when I have time. Like,
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
This was actually a lot of fun.
thank you. And like I'll get to do my favorite part is like literally as soon as I hit end stream, I literally take all this off for the guests and we just like talk for a few seconds because like I love that part of just like
The dragon.
Yeah. So anyway, with that being said, this is Gay Out the City. I'm your host, Prince Electro Diamond, and I hope you've enjoyed.